I wanted to mention real quick that everybody here, you are a terrorist. The US considers you a terrorist. If you are in the US, you're a domestic terrorist, actually. I mentioned this yesterday on yesterday's stream, but I didn't really like talk about it. I didn't really look too deep at it. Largely slop, Trump's new counterterrorism strategy is scant on substance but heavy on enemies. Critics say document outlining a strategy is both completely Trumpian and an alarming escalation in rhetoric. Let's look at the United States counterterrorism strategy from 2026, which was like released 5 days ago, I think. I kind of want to like skip all of these things. I want to jump to the threat. Currently, we face 3 major types of terrorism groups: narco-terrorists and transnational gangs, legacy Islamist terrorists, and violent left-wing extremists, including anarchists and anti-fascists. I'm kind of confused about this because the right always told me that the left calls anyone a fascist. So what it means to be a fascist is kind of wishy-washy. If you're like all of these hateful people, these bigots and so on that are like ruining the economy, that are ruining my quality of life, I would like them to stop. Like, is that anti-fascist? Because like the right doesn't define what like a fascist is. They just like use it as like a term to be like, actually the left calls anyone a fascist, so you need to like not critically engage with anything that I'm saying. That's kind of like how the right wing uses it. That's how like people are pushing this. If you say that like restricting somebody's freedom of speech because they really want to like say hateful things and get away with it, that actually makes you fascist. Like, what do things even mean right now? It kind of feels like the Trump admin just considers anybody anti-fascist if they're just like against what they are doing. That's kind of fascist, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Allegedly, that kind of feels very fascist. But hey, what do I know? I don't live in the US, so obviously, why do I even care? It's kind of how like right-wingers, they don't want people to like talk about and want to like criticize like all of the horrible things that like the Trump admin is doing. But I feel like, as somebody who is a content creator who also creates on platforms like, you know, Twitter and YouTube and Twitch and Instagram, considering what I am doing, considering on the platforms that I'm operating on, I feel like these are things that kind of also pertain to me a little bit. Kinda. Maybe. Just slightly. Don't worry, Nyara, once the AFD takes power with the CDU, we also will become terrorists. Yeah, we all have to like worry about this as well, because like the AFD really likes what the Trump admin is doing, especially when it comes to like ICE and so on. But hey, you know, why do I even care? It's like I'm in Europe. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Obviously. Our counterterrorism strategy, our CT principles, America's new US counterterrorism strategy is driven by the principle that America is our homeland. Americans should be safe to live their lives without the fear of terror. Or violent left-wing extremists who have adopted radical ideologies antithetical to the principles upon which our republic was founded. Violent left-wing extremists who have adopted radical ideology. They think that like being woke is like a problem. Saying that like gay people should have the ability to get married, that is like anti-American. And you just having an opinion is considered an act of terrorism. I feel like this kind of sounds like thought crimes, right? You being trans, you wanting to live your life, you saying that like trans people exist, like is that part of like the radical ideologies that are antithetical to the principles upon which our republic was founded? Is that like, is that included? Maybe there's a little bit of like clarification on like what is included here. Obviously, you know, you got like the standard Islamophobia and so on, and like, oh my god, they want to replace the white people, they're coming after the white people and so on. But I kind of wanted to look for something. If I look for Trans. Oh my god, Charlie Kirk was mentioned in the 2026 strategy. That's interesting. Americans have witnessed the politically motivated killings of Christians and conservatives committed by violent left-wing extremists, including the assassination of Charlie Kirk by a radical who espoused extreme transgender ideologies. Wasn't the guy who assassinated Charlie Kirk not actually trans and not actually, you know, in a relationship with like a trans woman, even though right-wingers were pushing this? Why are they still lying? Oh, it's all rooted in propaganda. It's all baseless, actually. It's just misconstruing certain things in order to push an agenda. Isn't that funny? And you can't criticize that because that is kind of like anti-American. That's pretty anti-fascist, and they will put you in a black side for that. Our national CT activities will also prioritize the rapid identification and neutralization of violent secular political groups whose ideology is anti-American, radically pro-transgender, and anarchist. What does it mean to be anti-American? Trans people exist, trans people deserve healthcare, trans people are, you know, a non-issue to normies who are just getting fucked over by a fascist authoritarian regime that is like, you know, led by billionaires. Nobody actually suffers when it comes to letting trans people just exist and letting us live our lives and, you know, letting us access all of the things that cis people can access, except for like this sexist society that wants to put everybody into tiny little boxes in order to control them better and to like oppressing them better. The elite doesn't like it when people are free. I'm not a big fan of America personally. Does that mean I'm a terrorist now? Yes. I am waiting for the White House to put out a statement to be like, yeah, these Twitch streamers, especially Hassan Piker, who is radicalizing people by indoctrinating them with left-wing, pro-transgender, anarchist propaganda, are terrorists and they need to be like, you know, removed. I'm just waiting for this moment. You think that is ridiculous? You think that is like, you know, satire that's like too far-fetched? But I don't think it is. I don't really feel like it is. Do you remember this one video I made where somebody was like tagging the FBI or like saying things like, oh my god, I hope they are not just like taking down Hassan. I hope the US Congress is going to get involved to get rid of Nyara VT. Do you remember this? That was 7 months ago. That's like, you know, kind of ridiculous, right? It's like, I'm not American. It's like, you know. But I feel like we're moving into like a direction where it's not even like too far-fetched for them to like start mentioning like Twitch and stuff. Identify terror actors and plots before they happen. So they are going after thought crimes. They push this propaganda that like everybody who is trans, you know, everybody who's like taking hormones, if a male takes female hormones, they will become mentally ill and they commit crimes and so on. And that is why we need to actually identify all of like these actors that are, you know, taking hormones, so we can make sure that they are not going to start killing people like Charlie Kirk, right? That is why they are, you know, pushing for like these lists. How like Tennessee is wanting to put like trans people on lists, because that is like how the propaganda works. They portray us as mentally ill, as dangerous. They amplify all of the people, even when somebody's just like pretending to be trans, or when they are saying that like someone who does like a mass shooting or something is like trans. Like they just run with it. They don't care about the facts. They want to push fear. They want to instill, because that is the only thing that like actually connects with conservatives. But the reality of the situation is like they should be scared of shit like this. If you say something that is like slightly critical of like, you know, the Trump admin, they like, what is stopping them from being like, oh, you are a potential threat to America, you need to be like interrogated and like sent to a black site? Who's stopping them? If you believe that a wishy-washy like definition and like statement like this cannot apply to you because you actually support Trump, or, you know, what the Trump admin is doing, which is wild, you're just delusional. Recruiting streams, they're coming for the streamers. Cut off their arms. Funding and recruitment streams. You know that this could be used in order to like push against someone like Hassan even further. Even like somebody like me. Obviously, I am not on this level. I'm not in the spotlight, thank fucking God. But I'm just like saying, right? Imagine Twitch is being pressured that like any left-wing streamer needs to be like banned, needs to be shadow banned and like suppressed and whatnot. What is stopping them? Well, like going after Twitch, YouTube, Instagram and so on, and just like enforcing these things that like if you're a trans person, if you're pro-trans, you need to be like banned and put on a watch list. Ultimately destroy established threat groups.
Mr. Glasstein, will you tell me the organizations that pose on the domestic side, two of the organizations, number one, number two, threat to the homeland at this point?
Can you please clarify, like organizations?
Any domestic terrorist organization that poses a threat to the homeland as we speak?
I'd say the first one, President Trump had just announced executive order domestic terrorist organization, Antifa. That's our primary concern right now.
All right, that's what President Trump did. What do they?
I find it so funny that like the entire time people were like, oh, Trump is not a fascist, but who are they like struggling with? Who are they going after? Those that are anti-fascist, those that are against fascism. When is it going to click?
FBI say.
We share the same view. When you look at the data right now, you look at the domestic terrorist threat that we're facing. Right now, what I see from my position is that's the most immediate violent threat that we're facing on the domestic side.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist?
Yeah.
If it's a terrorist organization and you've identified it as number one.
We are building out the infrastructure right now.
So what does that mean? You say, we trying to get the information. You say Antifa is a terrorist organization. Tell us as a committee, how did you come to that? Where do they exist? How many members do they have in the United States as of right now?
Well, that's very fluid. It's ongoing for us to understand that. The same, no different than Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
No, I don't want you. I'll ask one question, sir. I just want you to tell us. If you said Antifa is the number one domestic terrorist organization operating in the United States, I just need to know where they are, how many people. I don't want a name. I don't want anything like that. Just how many people have you identified with the FBI that Antifa is made of?
Well, the investigations are active.
Sir, you wouldn't come to this committee and say something you can't prove, I know. I know you wouldn't do that. But you did.
Ultimately destroy established threat groups. They believe Antifa is a organization, but like the truth doesn't matter, right? Like the facts don't matter. It's just about a story. All of them, they just want to be like right-wing podcasters. They just want to spread their conspiracy theories. They want to, push like all of these lies. They go after like innocent people. They harass trans people, people of color and so on. Like all of their anti-DEI, anti-woke, anti-trans, like anti-immigration rhetoric and so on. It's just like everything is baseless. It's just, hateful. And if you call that out, if you criticize that, if you say anything, you are apparently a terrorist and you need to be, treated with accordingly. I don't know if like any one of you remembers that video that I showed where somebody who is very outspoken, who themselves is not trans, but who is working with like, who is like active in the trans community and like outspoken, who got their documentation, their passport revoked because they are now on like a watch list, like a terrorist watch list. Like back then, there was a while ago that they are like investigating them for terrorism. I'm not entirely sure what like happened out of that, but I'm wondering if they're going to implement something like this and they're going after trans people, after those that are opposing fascism, after those that are like opposing ICE and whatnot. Who else is going to be coming forward and sharing stories about how they are being investigated for terrorism now? And as somebody who is a trans creator who is using, you know, platforms like YouTube, Twitch that are based in America, I'm kind of wondering what like the future is for me. I'm worried about the future of, you know, my friends and family in the US. And I'm also kind of worried about what the AfD is doing in Germany. With them getting more and more power, with them being more blatantly fascist, with the CDU working with them also like destroying a lot of like progress that we made in society. I'm kind of worried where society is heading. I'm worried where everything is going, but I hope that you know that all of these people are incredibly incompetent. Modern fascism, 2026 fascism is so incredibly embarrassing. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't believe in anything. They don't know anything. They just make shit up and they sell a story, and cattle is going to like eat that up. On social media, it's being boosted. There are like all of these bots and whatnot, but like it's just so embarrassing. It sucks a lot that like the Democrats, the liberals and so on in the US are not competent enough to like stop this, because they don't care if there's more fascism, because capitalism always leads to fascism, right? It's kind of like the end goal. Anyways, that is what I wanted to talk about. That's kind of what I wanted to address, because I think it's so embarrassing. This is so fucking embarrassing.